Hello everyone. This is the 33rd part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 205, Ability. Now he still had 95,000 energy value, which was a lot, and Bruce intended to turn these energy values into his strength. After all, the plot had now been developed to this stage, so he did not need to keep these energy values. Only in this way, he would not be affected because of the lack of his own strength when he faced Thanos later. Bruce's goal had never changed no matter it was the past or the future. That was he was always focusing on his own strength. Because his goal was clear, he would be able to reach this high level. What kind of ability should I upgrade this time? At the moment, Bruce looked at his ability list, and his expression was solemn. He had already upgraded many abilities and there were still some left. Because he thought even if he upgraded these abilities, they also would not bring too much improvement to his power. At the moment, Bruce calmly analyzed all of this. His abilities were not too many, but each of them was important and practical. And in the battle, they were also able to achieve great results. Then Bruce put his eyes on the high-speed movement shortly after thinking about it. High-speed movement was the ability that he had downloaded from Quicksilver. Although Quicksilver only had this one ability, it was very powerful, because moving at a very fast speed was already remarkable among many superpowers. But this ability was actually not that strong when using it to fight against Thanos. The reason for that was because by the time Thanos came to Earth, he already had 2 of the Infinity Gems. And the Space Gem must be in his hand. Owning the Space Gem meant that even if Quicksilver's speed was very fast, then it still could not compare with the Space Gem. But this did not mean that this ability was useless at all. This ability was very strong, especially when the enemy was still not aware of it. It was like that when Bruce was fighting with Hela was totally not aware of his move. At this point, high-speed movement was very amazing. But Bruce was still not satisfied. Because as his strength became stronger and stronger continuously, then the abilities he needed would definitely need to be upgraded. Therefore, high-speed movement had not been able to meet Bruce's current strength. More importantly, Bruce had never upgraded high-speed movement before. So this time, it would not take too much energy value to upgrade it. After confirming these, Bruce ordered the system directly. System, upgrade high-speed movement. After Bruce issued the order, the system's voice came again. Beep, upgrading the high-speed movement requires 5,000 energy values, yes or no. When Bruce heard the prompt of the system, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. Even high-speed movement upgrade also required 5,000 energy values? This was a terrible thing. Originally, he did not have so much energy value and now it actually needed 5,000 energy values. This was equivalent to downloading Doctor Strange's ability. But Bruce did not choose no, but selected yes regardless. High-speed movement was very powerful and had great effect. Although the Quicksilver in the Marvel movie universe was somewhat different from the Quicksilver in the X-Men, their ability was the same. It was a pity that high-speed movement had not reached the level of the Flash. Of course, this was because of the setting. But Bruce was sure that if he continued to develop this ability, it would completely reach the level of comics. In some way, these superheroes in comics were stronger than movies. But Bruce was now in the Marvel movie universe, so he could ignore the settings in the comics. At the moment Bruce confirmed, 5,000 energy values disappeared again. Then a powerful force poured into his body again, and all forces were constantly rushing forward. When the high-speed movement was upgrading, Bruce only felt that everything around him was changing slowly. It was not a simple slowness, but was a static state. It was just like taking advantage of time gem. This was terrifying. At the moment, 1 second was like an hour. In addition, the process of upgrading was also very long, so Bruce felt everything around him had completely changed. Nobody knew how long it had been. Bruce thought that he had gone through several months, but in fact, in the real world, it was just 2 hours. When everything returned to peace, Bruce's eyes again appeared a trace of light. Then he slowly lifted his head and heard a voice in his mind. Beep, congratulations to the host for upgrading successfully. Beep, congratulations to the host for acquiring new abilities in Lightning Move. What's Lightning Move? When Bruce heard the prompt of the system, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. The high-speed movement was directly transformed into a lightning move. That was to say, his speed could reach the speed of light. But why did it sound like the Flash's ability? Of course, Bruce did not give attention to these. After the upgrade, he could clearly feel that his physical quality became stronger. More importantly, the lightning move seemed to have really turned into lightning speed. It was only that he could not confirm this, so Bruce chose to test it directly. Then he directly opened the lightning move. At the next moment, everything around him became slow again. And in just a second, he appeared in a very distant unknown place from Camartage. More importantly, Bruce even saw Dr. Strange and Wong during the 1 second. But it seemed that the Masters did not find any trace of him. Now, his speed had exceeded dozens of times than he had before. 1 second was just an instant for someone else. But for the present Bruce, he could use it to do many things. At the moment, on the other side, Dr. Strange and Wong were stunned. Wong, have you noticed something suddenly rushing over? At the moment, Dr. Strange was a little strange. He seemed to see a figure, but he really did not see it clearly. No, it's your hallucination. Wong answered him seriously. But just after Wong said this, Bruce had come back to his room. This speed could be said to be very terrifying. At the moment, Wong also had found something wrong. Didn't I have hallucinations? Then the two looked at each other with a stunned face. They had no idea what had happened at all. Chapter 206, Upgrade. But Dr. Strange did not give much attention to this, because Bruce ever told him that no matter what he had seen, he'd better not care. Therefore, Dr. Strange did not pay attention to it, plus Camartage was the Sorcerer Supreme's holy place. More importantly, Bruce was here, so there must be no problem. Then he and Wong looked at each other and immediately left. And they knew that maybe it was Bruce. Although they did not know what Bruce was doing, they were sure that Bruce would not pose any harm to the real world. This was their affirmation, so they were not worried at all. At this moment, Bruce's face appeared a smile after the experiment. After high-speed movement was upgraded, it eventually turned into a light-speed movement. Bruce became better at speed and speed control now. These were just the effects after the ability was upgraded, which could be said to be very powerful. Although Bruce had spent 5,000 energy value, he did not care for it now. At the moment, his all abilities had almost reached the limit, and what he needed to do now was to integrate them. Just before integrating the abilities, Bruce had to do something else. It was Mjolnir that he just got. This was Thor's, and although now being repaired by Bruce, Mjolnir still listened to Thor. Therefore, Bruce wanted to turn Mjolnir into his own, but Bruce had to spend a lot of effort. And it was only after he transformed Mjolnir, it actually belonged to him in the true meaning. After all, it was the artifact created by Odin. At this moment, Bruce had already thought of a lot of things. What he wanted most now was to completely change Mjolnir. System, upgrade Mjolnir. After thinking about these, Bruce directly issued an order to upgrade Mjolnir. After the system got the order of Bruce, a voice came, beep, the energy value required to upgrade Mjolnir is 50,000 points. When Bruce heard the voice, his eyes were straight. Upgrading Mjolnir actually needed 50,000 energy value? Why was it so terrifying? Bruce only got 100,000 energy value after he finished the last task. But upgrading Mjolnir actually had almost used half of his energy value. It was so terrible. At this moment, Bruce's face was pale, and he could not believe it. He even wanted to deny it, because he could use 50,000 energy values to do many other things. It also could help Bruce reach God level. But after he upgraded Mjolnir, his energy value would disappear at once. This made Bruce feel very terrible. But he did not have any way because he could not change the system. Thinking about the strength of Mjolnir, plus it was already very lucky for him to get Mjolnir. And if he did not have Time Gem, then if he wanted to upgrade Mjolnir, it would require a terrifying amount of 200,000 energy value. More importantly, he did not spend any energy value to get Mjolnir. Then, Bruce took a deep breath and confirmed it directly. The 50,000 energy value is nothing. Anyway, I will get more in the future. Bruce said this firmly. Just as Bruce had just confirmed, the 50,000 energy value turned into powerful and terrifying power and then poured into Mjolnir. The powerful forces turned into a flash of lightning and hit Mjolnir madly. It seemed that the whole world was bleak. After all, Mjolnir was the legendary thing in the myth which was so powerful that it could not be copied. Therefore, it could be said that it was very terrifying to upgrade such a mythical thing. Although Bruce did not want to expend so much energy, he was very clear what it would become. It was just that he did not know whether the 50,000 energy value was worth it. I hope this is worth it. At this moment, when the energy value was changed to Mjolnir, the power of thunderbolts poured into it. The terrible power was surging, and Bruce was constantly observing it. If Mjolnir was not placed in the system warehouse, then everyone would be attracted by it. At this moment, Mjolnir was constantly changing, and Bruce quietly observed. He could feel that the shape of Mjolnir and the power of controlling the lightning were constantly strengthened, especially the power of Thunderbolt in it, which was even more terrifying. Bruce's feeling was very clear now. He slowly looked at Mjolnir in front of him, and its lines became more terrifying. They were like extremely old words which were telling some historical events. Seeing this, Bruce's eyes were lit up. At the moment, he could feel the change of these terrifying powers, and Mjolnir had become very strong and terrifying under the change of the 50,000 energy value. It seemed that Mjolnir had become more terrifying because of his 50,000 energy value. That was to say, the 50,000 energy value was very worth it. The process of this change was very long and powerful forces poured into Mjolnir. And Bruce was also slowly adapting to the improvement he had just acquired. After all, it was not his own improvement, so he needed to slowly get used to it. But he could still feel that he and Mjolnir seemed to be more and more closely connected with the continuous evolution of Mjolnir. The system belonged to Bruce, but after the upgrade, it helped Bruce and Mjolnir completely integrate. Therefore, Mjolnir after the upgrade was no longer Thor's, but belonged solely to Bruce. At the moment, Bruce looked forward to it very much. He stood there and waited quietly. Waiting was a very long process, but he was not in a hurry. If he wanted to turn something into a surprise, he must be patient. After upgrading Mjolnir, he still had 40,000 energy values. These energy values were also useful, he could use them to integrate his other abilities. If his guess was right, he would reach God level soon. But if he wanted to face Thanos, then he had to reach the peak power of God level. At this moment, Bruce was considering how he could use the 40,000 energy value to make them show the best effect. After all, it would take a long time to receive the next task. Therefore, before the new task appeared, this energy value was very helpful to him. So he had to be careful about how to use them. At this moment, the voice of the system came. Beep, congratulations to the host for upgrading it successfully. Chapter 207, Terrifying. Beep, congratulations to the host for upgrading it successfully. Beep, congratulations to the host for new equipment, Storm Hammer. At this moment, the voice of the system made Bruce very excited. After the total consumption of the 50,000 energy value, Mjolnir in his hand was directly transformed into a storm hammer. Its power was absolutely terrifying, especially when he had mastered the storm hammer. Bruce could even feel the powerful force. At this moment, Bruce looked at the storm hammer in the warehouse, and he was very excited. In the plot of Avengers Alliance 3, Thor, with the help of the Dwarf King, created a legendary Stormbreaker in order to defeat Thanos. It was precisely because of the Stormbreaker, which made Thor's power reach an incredible level. The legendary Stormbreaker was beyond the Eternal Spear, known as the most powerful weapon of Asgard. And it was also because of this Stormbreaker, Thor was able to hurt Thanos later. It must be known that when in Titan 547, Doctor Strange, Star-Lord, Spider-Man and Iron Man and others made full efforts together. Thanos was only slightly hurted by them. But Thor could hurt and even kill him. It was just because the Stormbreaker, which owned an unparalleled power. At this moment, the storm hammer in Bruce's hand was the same level as the Stormbreaker. The Mjolnir was already strong. But after Bruce's upgrade, it had reached an incredible level now. The powerful force was very daunting, and the present Bruce was able to completely control the storm hammer in his hand. This was equivalent to his strongest power and even could be said to be extremely powerful. Perhaps now, the storm hammer in Bruce's hand was a way to defeat Thanos. At this moment, Bruce looked at the storm hammer in front of him and a smile appeared on his face. The 50,000 energy value was definitely not a loss, because it could directly upgrade Mjolnir and Stormbreaker's level. Therefore, Bruce could be said to be very lucky now. The storm hammer was quietly lying in Bruce's warehouse. Its powerful force could be said to be extremely terrifying. Even Bruce could use it to summon a terrifying thunderbolt that was more than 10 times stronger than before. And the thunderbolt could totally defeat Hela. And if he used Stormhammer to fight against Hela, who was at her peak stage with his full strength, he would definitely win. For superheroes, equipment was a very frightening ascension in the Marvel world. Just like the Thor with a Stormbreaker and the Thor with a Mjolnir, it was completely two levels. There was also a better example. Thanos had infinite gems and Thanos did not. The gap between the two sides could be very large, so equipment was very important. Therefore, after having the Stormhammer, Bruce was able to improve his abilities to an extreme level. But Bruce's own strength had not yet fully entered God level. Although the equipment was important, Bruce also thought that his strength was actually the most important. It was like Iron Man, who did not have steel battle armor. It could be said that he did not have any force, because Iron Man's power was entirely from the steel armor of his body. Although the equipment was very important, it was not the true strength. Therefore, what Bruce most wanted to do was to improve his strength. After a general understanding of Stormhammer, Bruce began to integrate those abilities in his hands. Only the integration was the true improvement. Then Bruce had no hesitation and began to integrate them directly. System, identify similar abilities and integrate them. At the moment, Bruce gave an instruction, although he did not know how much energy he would spend this time, but anyway, 40,000 energy value was completely enough for his current integration. Beep, Odin fighting ability, Godly fighting ability, Asur's strength and the Thunder Tribulation, are similar and can be integrated. At the moment Bruce issued the order, the system had already identified the similar abilities for Bruce. Each of these similar abilities was very powerful and very similar, and they could be integrated. After the integration, a new ability will be obtained. And the abilities that the system identified just now could be said to be very powerful, and because they belonged to the fighting abilities, they could be integrated. Let's begin the integration. After the system prompts, Bruce chose to integrate directly. Once these abilities were integrated, a more terrifying and powerful ability would be formed. At that time, Bruce could be said to have reached God level. And plus Stormbreaker, he was absolutely able to cause great damage to Thanos. Beep, this integration requires 30,000 energy values. Yes or no? 30,000 energy value? At this moment, Bruce was relieved. Because these energy values were still within his acceptance. After all, his current energy value was 40,000, which was enough. Thinking of this, Bruce did not hesitate to start the integration. At the moment Bruce confirmed, the 30,000 energy value transformed into mysterious power and poured into Bruce's body at once. At the moment, he could clearly feel his abilities were integrated together directly under a mysterious force. These powerful abilities turned into a light that was constantly turbulent in Bruce's body. The ability to be chosen by the system, regardless of which one, is already enough to make a person become a truly powerful superhero. Especially when these abilities were all integrated, which were even more terrifying. Even Bruce himself did not know what kind of ability he would have after integrating these abilities. At this moment, Bruce's body burst into a strong light. Bruce arranged some simple magic around him to make the light on his body invisible. Because Bruce did not want to be known by someone else. During this period, he had done many things. Although Camartage was now almost his own territory sometimes, he still needed to be very careful, because before the war began, Bruce did not want to expose all his strength. It was his best choice to hide everything at will. Especially this integration, he did not want anyone to know it, because this would be his most important ability in the final war. The 100,000 energy value obtained from this mission indeed helped Bruce get a very powerful improvement. And with this improvement, Bruce had absolute confidence in facing Thanos in the future. More importantly, the integration was still continuing. Chapter 208 Power of the Gods. Because these abilities were very strong, it was very terrifying when Bruce integrated them. And it also needed to take more time. But Bruce had already prepared for this. At this moment, he waited quietly for the result that was formed after the final fusion. The 30,000 energy value must be worth it. Only if he reached the god level could he have enough power to confront Thanos directly. And Bruce had always been preparing for this. This was his last preparation. Nobody knew how long it had been, until the next day, the voice of the system finally came. Beep, congratulations to the host for integrating successfully. Beep, congratulations to the host for acquiring new ability, Deity's Power. Deity's Power? When Bruce heard the name, a surprised expression appeared on his face. His abilities were all very terrifying, and their names were also very good, but why did the new ability sound like rubbish? But then, he noticed the first word of his new ability, deities. What are deities? If it was Bruce in the last lifetime, he would have a totally different understanding about the name. There were 5 deities in the Marvel world, and it was they that created the universe and even created 6 infinity gems. And it was said that the 5 deities stood at the highest point of the universe and took control of everything. Among them, there was one deity named Death. Of course, Death and the goddess of death were totally different. That one was actually the real god. He controlled the death of all living creatures, and Hela did not have the qualification to compare with him. And the god of death was one of the legendary deities. The deities were beyond the Aesir, even beyond the master of Asgard. It was the peak of the world. And at the moment, what Bruce had gotten was actually deity's power. Could it be that my abilities have turned into a true deity's power after being upgraded? At the moment, Bruce muttered to himself, and he could not believe it. Because the real deity's power was extremely powerful, which could control everything. It was not that simple like controlling one thing. Nobody knew how powerful deities were. Even Thanos, who had 6 unlimited gems, was not able to compete with deities. In the comics, Thanos was even a well-known spare will for deities. The power of deities was not understood by ordinary people. But Bruce got deity's power after he integrated various abilities. Bruce could not believe this point, but he could not be very sure about this now. Therefore, if he wanted to explore it, he had to test it by himself. At this moment, Bruce immediately stood in the same place without hesitation. Then he took a deep breath and slowly lifted his palm. Boom! At the moment that he just thought of lightning, a terrifying thunderbolt surged in the air, and its diameter reached thousands of kilometers. His control of lightning was much more powerful than before now. Especially his thoughts, he just moved it slightly, then he could control everything around him. It seemed that he had formed a powerful and terrifying force around him, which was almost able to call it a territory. And in this territory, he could do anything. It seemed to be invincible. Is it the real deity's power? At the moment, a shocking expression appeared on his face. He felt like he was able to control the world after he got this ability. Control everything in one territory? There didn't exist a superhero who could do it, as only true deities could do that. Of course, deities could even create life, but Bruce was unable to do that. Even if he now possessed the deity's power, but it did not represent that he had become a true deity. Now, after his abilities were integrated, this new ability was formed. And then the new ability directly gave him the strength to reach the god level. This could be said to be very horrible. God level was equivalent to the figures like Ancient One and Odin. Just look at those figures at the god level. Weren't they all powerful and terrifying existences? Bruce knew this point very clearly. His strength had reached God level, but it was not that he was already strong enough, because there were still too many terrible existences above God level. God level was very powerful for the Earth, but in the universe, it could only be counted as medium strength. The world was so vast that no one knew what would happen in the process. Therefore, God level was only a start for Bruce. Bruce only could be called a truly strong person when he had that power. And if he wanted to reach a stronger state, he still needed continuous efforts and downloads. Now, Bruce had already gotten deity's power, which meant that he had gone beyond the human, even the god. And his deity's power could even help him survive in the universe. As long as he had a steady stream of power, he was hardly afraid of all kinds of radiation in the universe. This was almost the same as Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was the existence that could fly in the universe freely. But the present Bruce also could do that. Therefore, it could be said that this was Bruce's biggest change. Except for deity's power, there were still many terrifying powers and means, it was just that Bruce had not found them yet. Thinking about this, Bruce directly chose to open his own property panel to see what he had changed. Name, Bruce Lite. Identity, 6-level agent. Ability, War God Body, Deity's Power, God Bloodline, the God's Telekinesis, Magic Ball, Body Blur, High-Speed Movement, Full Induction, Body and Shield Oneness, the Dark Source, the God Power of the Real World. Warehouse, Storm God Hammer, Super Vibranium Shield, Mark 8 Battle Armor, Ant-Man Battle Suit, Unlimited Edition. Balance, 200 WUSD. Energy Value, 1 W points. At this moment, Bruce's number of abilities were reduced once again, but he knew that his strength had reached a powerful level. As for the energy value in his hand, there were only 10,000 left. The original 100,000 energy value was directly changed to 10,000, all in the span of a single day. But Bruce was very satisfied with such a change. Especially his new ability and weapon, Stormhammer and Deity's Power, which could be said to be quite terrifying. He could do a lot of things with these abilities. Bruce, who was at God level now, had truly surpassed any superhero on this planet. Chapter 209, Final Preparation. Even in the Marvel world, the existence of God level was extremely strong. Although there were many more powerful people than this, it did not prevent Bruce, who was at God level, from being one of the most powerful figures on Earth. Especially Deity's power that he just got had helped him be able to live in the universe. It was a terrible thing, because even Thor could not live in the universe alone for a very long time. Thor just could survive in the universe, he would die after a certain period of time. Therefore, being able to survive in the universe was a sign of a stronger person. At the moment, Bruce's power was definitely at a terrifying level. Of course, Bruce did not care about these, but he only wanted to become stronger continuously. Until finally, no one could prevent him from doing anything. And then he would be at the peak of the world. Now, just wait for the plot of Avengers Alliance 3 to begin. At the moment, a smile appeared on his face and he only had 10,000 energy values. These energy values were not very useful for him, so he intended to store them. And he did not want to use them for the time being. Then, he looked outside. Kamartaj did not change much. The only change was that the whole world was very clear in front of him now. He looked outside quietly. The present Bruce was completely different from the previous one, the one who just came to this world and had no power. At that time, he was just an ordinary Chinese agent who could not touch the New York War. At that time, he was like a real ant that could do nothing. But now it was totally different. He was among the strongest people on his planet, and at the moment, he was able to control his own fate and even could control others' fate. It could be said that he had reached a completely powerful level now. It was a terrible change which was invincible. As long as Bruce continuously downloaded, he would continuously become strong. And by then, what he needed to do was also very much. Especially after the plot of Avengers Alliance 3, there would be something happening that even he could not predict. Therefore, only strength could control all of this. It's time to go to the Avengers base. At the moment, Bruce looked outside and a smile appeared on his face. Because of his previous arrangements, Iron Man had already been preparing to resist the external enemy, because Bruce had told him that the disaster they would face was very huge this time. Especially the opponent they would face was more terrifying, so Iron Man paid great attention to this. And this was what Bruce had seen. As for other things, Bruce was not clear. For example, whether Iron Man had contacted Captain America, Bruce wanted to know this point. But Bruce guessed that the proud Iron Man would not contact Captain America. Because the Iron Man and Captain America were all very principled. Of course, this principle would completely disappear when they faced Thanos. Not everyone could be indifferent to such disasters, and they must unite all those who could be united. Then Bruce said goodbye to Doctor Strange and immediately left Kamar-Taj. And he had already appeared in the Avengers base soon after. It was still Vision who found him at first. "Mr. Bruce, Mr. Stark is in the lab." Bruce, who heard this sentence, nodded, and now Iron Man stayed in the laboratory for some time. After all, what Bruce had told him about how huge the disaster would be was too horrible. And even if they gathered all the power, they would not be able to fight against Thanos. Therefore, the Iron Man was certainly very nervous. Because it was Bruce who told him these, and Iron Man knew clearly about Bruce that Bruce would not say it out if he did not care. More importantly, Bruce was very powerful in the eyes of Iron Man and was also very mysterious. So anyway, what Iron Man wanted to do was to confront all the disasters that may occur. At this moment, he was in the lab, planning something and the design of his own armor. Now Iron Man had completely mastered nanotechnology, and the previous Mark 50 armor had been abandoned by him. Now, what he was designing was just Mark 85 fighting armor. And it was a new upgrade on the basis of Mark 50 battle armor. Whether it was on attack, power or energy, Mark 85 became stronger than Mark 50. Therefore, it could be said that Iron Man had spent enormous efforts on it. His new armor even could directly fight against Hulk now, and he did not need to use anti-Hulk armor at all. This was just the power of the nano armor. As long as there were enough nanometers, he could do almost anything. And this was his biggest dependency now. "I hope that my armor can be completely shaped when the war begins." At the moment, a sense of urgency appeared on Iron Man's face. Bruce gave him great pressure before, so he had to believe it. "Stark, you give too much pressure to yourself." At this moment, Bruce walked in and looked at Iron Man. Iron Man, the billionaire, was much older than before. His temples were white and his eyes were full of red blood. He was not as cool as he was before. Indeed, after Stark became Iron Man, he almost had been in that tense mood all the time, because there were too many things he wanted to protect and to do. It was just that he knew that his ability was not enough. Therefore, what he could do was only to prevent future disaster events. At this moment, the Iron Man looked at Bruce and a smile appeared in his eyes. "Oh? My master, you're back." Iron Man wore a smile on his face. He looked at Bruce saying this, and his emotions also eased slightly. Bruce was his most reliable ally for the present Iron Man. And when Bruce saw him, he also smiled. If it was not because the thing was too important, Bruce would not tell anyone about this. Among the many superheroes, Iron Man took the biggest responsibility. Although he was a mortal, he had a firm heart. This marks the end of part 33 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.